Hey everybody, I wanted to show you what I've recently discovered now, which is not actually my discovery, it's somebody else's discovery, but it supports this diagram I was showing you the other day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the new discovery, and then I'm going to, for those people that are not familiar with my work, after this discovery, I'm going to show you how it all ties in. So that way the folks that are familiar with my work can just go ahead and watch up to the point that they need to, and that's it. So as you guys saw last time, what I found was that, along with Santos's help, is that these pyramids of the brain are located right here on the Nile. Okay, the Nile is overlaid with the Orion Nebula, as we saw, and these pyramids are located exactly where they should be on the Nile, as opposed to the nervous system as well. You can see the comparison of the nervous system and the overlay of the Nile here, and you have the pyramids of the brain. So when I backed out on this, I saw the rest of the nervous system, but here's what else I found. On this site, it's called Chakras of the Nile, and it goes into each one of these areas as being the root chakra, second chakra, third chakra. And what I did was I plotted all these on the map, and it turns out that my diagram was correct, and that this actually represents the spinal cord. Okay, so that's the new discovery. So it actually is in line with what I thought. And all this is by no mistake. So let's go back for the people who are not familiar with my work real quick, and I'm just going to kind of do a quick overview. What I found is that all the way back to the very beginning, to ancient Sumeria, to ancient Egypt, people have been seeing the Orion Nebula in their mind's eye. In ancient Egypt, they called this area right here, they called this the Celestial Nile. In other words, when they passed away, what they would actually be joining is the Celestial Nile. Well, I actually did an overlay of the Orion Nebula on top of this area. And as you can see, fractally, it's sound all the way to detailed levels. Okay, and what's even more interesting is that in the Orion Nebula, for example, this area right here that you're seeing is right up here, that recent development is actually mimicking what's inside the Orion Nebula. And this basically matches the mental universe, what we understand as the mental universe in Hermetics. So it really kind of confirms the holographic universe theory. So having overlaid the Orion Nebula on top of the Nile and it fitting perfectly, and also that since Osiris, the god Osiris, was associated to Orion, we see now why. Because the Celestial Nile that they were actually talking about is the Orion Nebula, because it fits perfectly on top of this. It has nothing to do with the Milky Way being that area. It's actually the center of the Orion Nebula, the trapezium area, as I just showed you. And so it turns out that, just go through a couple of these paintings with you real quick. These master painters were painting the Orion Nebula a long time ago, all the way back 500 years ago. I first discovered this stuff by finding the Orion Nebula inside the St. Charles Church that you see right here. And as time went on, I started noticing that it was, these guys were actually painting it, but painting it to such a high level of detail, it was just ridiculous. And I noticed, for example, inside the Church of the Jesu, we have this interesting mural, and the name of it is actually called Triumph of the Holy Name of Jesus, done in 1679. IHS is another way of saying Jesus, the way they said it was like an acronym for Jesus a long time ago. But it turns out that when you go through and you take a look at the painting, it's actually the Orion Nebula. Now, I will let you guys know that this makes people very upset in the religious community, because it goes against what they have been taught. And so there's a lot of hate videos out there right now. I'm not really concerned about them anymore because I don't pay attention to my YouTube emails. I'm just trying to show you guys the data. Let's just go through some of these real quick. Here is another painting. It shows the Orion Nebula trapezium. And as you can see, these things follow all the way through. And I've got a whole photo album that you can look at, and you can see these things. This is the conversion of Saul. Here's another one showing the Orion Nebula trapezium, and you can even see that this face is copied all the way through to the very end. And that's what's going on up here. The Orion Nebula trapezium is the important area that we need to be paying attention to. And this is the Church of the Jesu showing the Barnard's Loop. And as you see right up here, we're talking the same thing. And what I've done is I've captured two pieces right here on the right side, and these pieces on the lower side. And what you're seeing right here is the transition from the Orion Nebula to this artwork, and you can see that it overlays perfectly. This is what they call Jesus, or this is what was painted subconsciously that was called Jesus. And it turns out that all this matches to all the way back to ancient Egypt, because they believe that the Nile, or the area that they went to after they died, was called the Osiris. Let me just pull up the Egyptian Book of the Dead real quick, because it says that the king of the gods, whose names are manifold, whose names are holy, thou being in the hidden form of the temples, which means like the temples on your head. There's an association between your psyche and the Orion Nebula, which I believe is the atom Kadmon, which is a collection of all of our souls. And it says, thou art the governor of Tatu, Osiris. Now, when you go and you take a look at the map for ancient Egypt, it doesn't have Osiris located right here on our modern map. But when you go take a look at the ancient map, you see that Osiris is right here in the center. Okay? Well, what else is right there in the center? What else is right there in the center is the very center of the Orion Nebula that you see, which corresponds to Orion, which corresponds to Osiris. And since we see in the Egyptian Book of the Dead that it was the governor of Tatu, or Osiris, which is located in the center of the Orion Nebula, you can now see how this was established. So I decided to back out, okay, and see on Google Earth if, since this area right here is overlaid on top of this, and since it corresponds to the brain, because when we take a look at the Orion Nebula, this is an unaltered version. This is the fornix, this is the thalamus, this is the amygdala, this is the reptilian brain. And by the way, this right here, this dragon, can be perfectly seen right here. This was not drawn. This was actually just pulled out of the Orion Nebula. You can see that all parts of the brain. So one cannot say that the pineal gland is located in Pleiades, or that the thalamus is located in another constellation. It's all right here. This is the mind. This is the collection of all of our soul. This is the anthropos. And you can see the mind right here, and you can see that they look literally almost the same. The reptilian brain doesn't even touch, just like it doesn't touch inside the regular brain. The reptilian brain doesn't touch the area of the higher brain up here either. And so when you back out on that, on Google Earth, I was like, okay, well, if this is a brain, then if I back out, I must see a spinal cord attached to it. And sure enough, I did. Well, here's what I found out. I found out that the spinal cord, according to the ancient Egyptians, also correspond to, there's different energy centers along the Nile, which correspond to the chakras. And that's the latest thing that I've figured out so far, that has matched my diagram. Someone else has discovered this information, but it was totally in line with what I had already figured out from the Orion Nebula, and that is these different chakra systems. And I plotted them actually on the Google Maps, but basically this is just confirming what I've already showed. So these guys have been painting the Orion Nebula in their drawings all the way back, or their paintings all the way back to ancient times. As you can see right here, the creation of Adam, okay, right, is a mental creation. And we can see this kind of thing all over the church. So I just wanted to bring the whole chakra system to everybody today to show you how that ties into what I have already shown you. And that what I believe the Orion Nebula is the atom Kadmon, which is the collection of all of our souls. This is from Not in His Image, Gnostic Vision, Sacred Ecology, and the Future of Belief. This is by John Lamb Lash. And it says, through ego death, initiates and mysteries learn to overcome fixation on single self-identity and realize species identity, the sense of generic humanity. In their vision of the anthropos, Gnostic seers beheld the human identity in a cosmic pre-terrestrial form. The Orion Nebula in the region of the tight young star formation called the trapezium is the direction they were looking if anyone cares to take a gander. So this is where they were looking. They were looking towards the Orion Nebula, just like I've shown you. Now let's take a listen to something real quick here.
If everything's included in me, then who are all the people around me? When I talk about man and an upper power, man means a collection of all the souls, which is actually the first man, Adam Harishon.
Or Adam Kadmon.
In our root, there is one single soul that was created by an upper power, and it was created opposite to the Creator. Later on, as you've probably heard, it was divided into many individual parts, and each individual part has to perform its own correction so as to become included back with all of the other parts. So that's where we begin again to be one soul opposite a single Creator. When all the souls gather together, to the extent that they connect to each other, the worlds disappear.
Because this is a mental universe. It's holographic. The data that I'm showing you is holographic. And the Orion Nebula, what it represents is that Adam Kadmon. It represents a collection of all of our souls. It's the Osiris. It's where we, as all individual fragmented souls, go back up there and return again. And that's what it's all about. That's what its function is. It is the first man. It is the Adam. It's the cosmic pre-terrestrial mind. And the problem that that religious folks have about all this is it goes against their beliefs. And so, of course, they're attacking the hell out of my channel and everything like that. But I wanted to bring this to you guys. The data is there. I'm going to provide you links to my folder so that you can see all this information. And I'm going to be starting my book here pretty soon. So I'm going to probably be doing some kind of an ebook because I think I've just about got the whole story that I want to use to start my book. And anyway, it's been quite a journey so far, but I wanted to bring this information to you. There's definitely not everything. There's definitely a lot more that needs to be discovered in all this, but what we're finding is that the universe is holographic, that because of all of the recent development mimicking the Orion Nebula, all these people have been seeing this area with their mind's eye. And if I go, for example, out here, let's take a look at this area. These ancient Sumerian stuff that you see, the tree of life and this winged disc, it's the same as this right here, what you're seeing. This is the Orion Nebula in infrared, and as I've already shown you, this guy stands out inside the Orion Nebula with just a couple of clicks. All you have to do is take the red out and adjust the contrast, and here he is. And it's the same thing that they're seeing right up here in this winged disc. Because when you reach a certain level of consciousness, you actually begin to become part of this higher collective soul. And that's, I believe, what this is all about. And I believe you can start, I have a feeling that at some point you can actually start manipulating reality. And I have a feeling this is some of the stuff that's being trying to be covered up. I don't think they want us to know how powerful that we actually are if we know what we're all about. And you always hear that all the time. You always hear people say, do you know what you really are, and stuff, but they never really tell you what you really are. And I believe this is what we really are. We are fragmented souls belonging as one soul to a higher consciousness, and I believe that higher consciousness is the Orion Nebula. I mean, that's what all the data is showing. I'm not making this up. This is all here. And everything is confirming itself all the way down to fractal pictures, just like I've shown right here. This kind of stuff can't be made up. So, and now we have the chakra system that I just showed you right here along the Nile, which when I backed out thinking this was probably the whole nervous system, I was completely correct. This is exactly what the Egyptians thought. And now we have more data to prove it. And the celestial Nile is actually the center of the trapezium in the Orion Nebula. This is where the Gnostics were looking and everything. All the data backs itself up. So anyways, I'm going to be starting my book here pretty soon, and I'm going to probably do some kind of a large series here pretty soon, something equivalent to Know What Is in front of your face, so that people can, get a really good enjoyment out of watching all of the information, because there's so much I can't put it all in one video. So I hope you guys take care, and I'll talk to you soon.